Will I forget you tomorrow? Human mechanic promises to fix alien girl's broken memory. In the heart of the Halifax Ring, an orbital station orbiting a gas giant 1.2 astronomical units from its sun, Owen Carter worked diligently in his cluttered workshop. Surrounded by salvaged parts from decommissioned freighters, he hunched over a faulty cargo drone, his muscular frame smeared with oil as he hummed an old spacer tune, its melody grounding his pragmatic, unpretentious spirit. His loyal cat, Newton, a chubby bundle of orange fur, meowed from somewhere nearby, and Owen glanced up, spotting the feline slipping into a ventilation duct. "Oh, come on, buddy," Owen muttered, exasperation lacing his voice as he set down his wrench. "You gotta pick the worst spots, huh?" He reached into the duct, his affection for Newton softening the hassle, his rough hands brushing against cold metal. Just then, a sleek shuttle docked nearby with a soft hiss, catching his attention. Lady Alara Voss stepped out, her elegant dress subtly shifting colors under the station's artificial lights, her young daughter, Lyra, clutching a plush toy at her side. Ilara approached with measured steps, her composed demeanor barely masking a flicker of desperation. "Mr. Carter, I need a moment of your time," she said, her voice steady but urgent. Owen straightened, wiping his hands on his jumpsuit, curiosity sparking in his quick-witted mind. "A moment for what, exactly?" he asked, eyeing the kit in her hand. "A genetic test," she replied, her tone softening. "It's for my daughter. 1,000,000 credits if you're a match." Owen's eyes widened, the offer hitting like a bolt. "That's, yeah, a hell of a number for a blood draw," he said, scratching his neck, weighing intrusion against fortune. Ilara's gaze held hope, her hands clasped tightly. "It's a chance to change her life," she said, glancing at Lyra, who watched Newton with wide, sensitive eyes, her silver-tinted hair catching the light. "Okay, fine. Let's do it," Owen agreed, rolling up his sleeve as Ilara set up the portable kit in his workshop. While the device hummed, processing the sample, Lyra giggled as Newton batted at her toy, her joy pure and infectious. "He's funny," she said, her small voice bright, tugging at Owen's pragmatic heart. He crouched beside her, grinning. "Yeah, Newton's a troublemaker, but he's good company," he said, ruffling the cat's fur. The results beeped, and Alara's breath caught. "Flux-adapted gene," she said, hope surging. "It can stabilize Lyra's memories." A hologram flickered nearby, revealing matriarch Corvina, her regal posture radiating disapproval. "Ilara, an outsider? Really?" she snapped, her voice sharp with disdain for the working-class mechanic. Owen ignored her, focusing on Lyra's plea. "Can you help me remember colors?" she asked, her innocent words stirring his big-hearted nature. He knelt closer. "We'll make sure you remember the best ones, kid," he promised, his tone gentle but firm. Ilara's shuttle waited outside, and Owen boarded with Newton purring in his arms, watching the Halifax Ring shrink below as they lifted off. "Never thought I'd leave this junk heap," he muttered half to himself as the station's docks faded. Ilara glanced over, gratitude in her eyes. "You're doing more than you know," she said softly. Lyra pointed at the stars. "Pretty lights," she exclaimed, and Owen chuckled. "Yeah, those are worth remembering." Aurelion Spire loomed ahead, its elegance stark against the void, overlooking sky traffic where ships zipped at 500 kilometers per hour. Staff greeted them politely, but Owen's oil-stained jumpsuit stood out against the polished decor, the class divide hitting quietly as he settled into a plush guest suite. Newton leapt onto the bed, sniffing corners with bold curiosity, and Owen unpacked sparsely a photo of old friends, Marco's grin grounding him. At dinner, the long table gleamed under soft lights, and Lyra poked at her food. Alara's facade cracked as she spoke. "Years of treatments, Owen. Nothing worked," she said, sorrow edging her voice. He leaned forward, his presence steady. "I'm here now, Alara. We'll give it a shot," he said, his big-hearted resolve clear. Lyra looked up, her silver hair catching the light. "Will I forget you tomorrow?" she whispered, fear fragile in her voice. Owen met her gaze, his smile warm. We're gonna make today stick, Lyra. Promise, he said, sealing a quiet bond. Ilara's eyes softened, gratitude breaking through her strength. As night fell, the spire hummed and sky traffic streaked below. Owen lay awake, Newton sprawled across the bed, his purr steady. A sense of purpose bloomed, reaching beyond the repairs he knew, as bonds formed slowly in this gleaming, unfamiliar world. Back in his workshop, Owen Carter leaned back in his chair, the familiar scent of oil and metal grounding him as he sipped coffee from a modified machine that hissed softly. His best friend, Marco Reyes, lounged across from him, his work jacket half unzipped, a witty grin spreading across his face. "1,000,000 credits, man? You've hit the damn jackpot," Marco teased, his voice light with camaraderie. Owen chuckled, but his mind raced with cautious curiosity. "It's not about the cash, Marco. It's for the kid," he said, his big-hearted resolve shining through as he set the cup down. Ilara's explanation from earlier lingered in Owen's thoughts. She had described Lyra's memory reset condition with careful soft words, explaining how each sleep erased her daughter's new experiences, trapping her mind at age 6. The weight of it softened Owen's pragmatic edge, empathy stirring deeply as he recalled Lyra's sensitive eyes clinging to her plush toy. In the workshop, a portable med unit hummed, scanning Owen's blood again, confirming his flux-adaptin gene as the only match in the station's database of 50,000 residents. 1 in 1,000,000, huh? Owen muttered, rubbing his arm where the needle had pricked. At Aurelion Spire, Lyra sat cross-legged in the clinic, giggling as Newton playfully batted at her toy, his orange fur catching the light. "He's so silly," she exclaimed, her pure joy infectious, tugging at Owen's heart as he crouched beside her. "Yeah, Newton's a real character," he said, his grin warm and genuine. The moment anchored something in him, a reason beyond the credits. Ilara watched nearby, her composed demeanor softening with hope. "This could work, Owen," she said quietly, her voice laced with gratitude. Matriarch Corvina arrived in person, her heels clicking sharply on the spire's polished floors, her regal posture radiating disapproval. "Ilara, involving a mechanic is unwise," she said, her strict voice cutting through the air, prioritizing the Voss lineage over an outsider. Owen stood unfazed, his quick wit holding back a retort. Ilara's composure held firm. "He's our only hope, Mother," she replied, her tone steady but vulnerable underneath. Corvina's gaze narrowed, but she relented with a slight nod, her pride unyielding. Owen made his decision, packing a duffel with essentials, tools, clothes, Newton's bowl, driven by empathy for Lyra's plight. "All right, buddy, new adventure," he said to Newton, who meowed in protest. The shuttle ride was smooth, and Aurelion Spire rose elegantly against the void, overlooking sky traffic where cargo ships zipped at 500 kilometers per hour. Owen's stomach twisted faintly, the shift from his gritty workshop to this gleaming world feeling surreal, but he stroked Newton's fur to steady himself. The guest suite was plush, its carpets and sleek walls a stark contrast to Owen's oil-stained jumpsuit, the class divide hitting quietly as he unpacked a photo of Marco and old friends. "Gonna miss the old place," he murmured, setting it on the nightstand. Newton leapt onto the bed, sniffing corners with bold curiosity, his purr a small comfort. Staff glanced at Owen's rough hands, but he shrugged off their stares, focusing on the task ahead. At dinner, the long table gleamed under soft lights, and Lyra poked at her plate, her silver hair catching the glow. Ilara's facade cracked as she spoke. "Years of tests, Owen. Nothing ever worked," she said, sorrow edging her words. He leaned forward, his presence a steady anchor. "We're going to change that, Ilara." "I'm in," he said, his resolve firm. Lyra looked up, her voice fragile. "Will I forget you tomorrow, Mr. Owen?" she asked, fear trembling in her eyes. Owen met her gaze, his smile gentle. "We'll make today stick, kid. I promise," he said, sealing a quiet bond. Alara's eyes softened, gratitude breaking through her strength. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. The moment wove them closer, a family forming in the quiet. Outside, sky traffic streaked in patterns, and Owen felt his life shift, purpose blooming beyond the repairs he knew so well. As night settled over the spire, Owen lay awake. Newton sprawled across the bed, his purse steady. The hum of the station felt distant now, replaced by the spire's soft pulse. Reflections drifted through his mind. Lyra's plea, Alara's hope, the weight of this new path. Bonds were forming slowly, grounding him in this gleaming, unfamiliar world. In the Spire's clinic, where soft lights created a calming atmosphere, Dr. Nyla Chen adjusted her crisp lab coat and greeted Owen with a professional nod. She guided him to the biosynthesizer, a sleek machine on the counter that hummed faintly as it prepared for the procedure. Owen rolled up his sleeve once more, settling into the chair. "This won't take long, right?" he asked, his tone casual but focused. Nyla smiled slightly, her focus sharp yet tinged with underlying conflict. "Under an hour, Mr. Carter. Non-invasive and efficient," she replied, clamping the device gently as the protein extraction began. In the next room, Lyra waited, her small frame tensing at first until Newton curled up nearby, his purr vibrating softly like a comforting rhythm. "He's always there when I need him," Lyra said, reaching out to stroke the cat, relaxation spreading through her as the dose was administered smoothly. Alara stood nearby, her hands clasped tightly, hope flickering in her eyes. "You're doing great, sweetheart," she whispered, her voice steady but warm. Owen joined them afterward, ruffling Newton's fur. "How's it feel, kid?" he asked Lyra, his big-hearted concern evident. Later, Owen wandered the estate's halls, the polished floors echoing his steps as he noticed a flickering panel in the environmental controls. With clever hands, he popped it open and adjusted the wires quickly, the air flowing more evenly afterward. Staff paused to watch, whispering their approval despite Corvina's lingering skepticism. Her voice crackled over the comm. "I suppose that's useful," she conceded, her tone grudging but with a hint of respect. Owen wiped his hands, smirking to himself. "Just doing what I do best," he muttered under his breath. The next day at breakfast, progress revealed itself when Lyra sat up straight and declared, "Red like the apple from yesterday." Her smart eyes widened with wonder, the moment shared warmly among them. Alara leaned in, her shoulders easing as relief washed over her. "That's amazing, Lyra," she said, her voice soft with guarded hope, though her thoughts drifted to the corporate threats looming over Vesper logistics. Owen grinned across the table. "See? We're making headway," he encouraged, his pragmatism laced with optimism. Marco arrived mid-morning, a salvage part tucked under his arm, his cheerful grin lighting up the room. "Brought something to jazz this place up," he said, his garage humor flowing easily. "We could turn the Spire into a mechanic's dream, you know." Owen laughed, the tension easing. "You're a lifesaver, Marco," he replied, clapping his friend on the back. Lyra giggled from the side, Newton's tail flicking playfully as the atmosphere lightened. Corvina pulled Owen aside later in her private study, the walls closing in with an air of formality. "Reputation is everything here, Mr. Carter," she said, her proud tone emphasizing each word. Owen crossed his arms, calm and witty. "I get that, but I fix what's broken. Simple as that," he retorted lightly. Her eyes narrowed before softening, faintly, a grudging respect showing in her nod. "Perhaps you do," she admitted, turning away slowly. After lunch, Lyra grabbed a piece of paper, her pencil scratching out shapes as Newton's fur details emerged clearly from the morning's play. "Look, I remember his whiskers," she exclaimed, holding it up proudly. Alara watched over her shoulder, a subtle smile curving her lips. "That's a real milestone, darling," she said, warmth breaking through her strength. Owen leaned against the door, his presence a steady anchor. "Keep it up, kid," he encouraged. Alara's comm buzzed with another urgent call from Helix Combine, and she stepped away, her composed face holding firm, but her fingers tightening on the device. Not now, she murmured to herself, concern building beneath the surface as hints of external pressure mounted. Owen caught her glance and offered a silent nod of support. As night settled over the spire, Owen sat by the window, watching sky traffic streak below, his life feeling reshaped with a deeper purpose. Newton sprawled across his lap, purring steadily, and reflections drifted through Owen's mind. The quiet bonds building slowly in this new rhythm. Treatments continued weekly, with Lyra retaining more each time, object names sticking firmly as her sensitivity bloomed in conversations. "I know this is a chair now," she said one day, her voice blooming with pride. Owen shared stories with her in the evenings, spinning tales of space adventures that helped form emotional anchors. "And the hero fixed the ship just in time," he narrated, her eyes shining raptly. Helix struck suddenly, seizing Vesper's equipment via a fabricated leak, and Alara paced the hollow room, tense voices arguing back through projections. "We won't let this stand," she declared, her determination strong. "Doctor." Nyla paced her lab alone, Helix's coercion tugging at her, her brilliant mind torn between loyalty and ethics. "I can't keep this up," she whispered to herself, conflict brewing deeply. Marco rallied the crew quickly, scavenged parts piling high as the backup synthesizer took shape from scrap, the coffee machine retrofit humming cleverly. "This'll hold," Marco said with a grin, loyalty fueling every weld. Corvina observed Lyra's joy, softening her stance slightly while sharing family tales over tea. "The Voss line has endured worse," she said, legacy looming large. One evening, Owen traced his old scars, accident memories flickering faintly. What really happened back then? He wondered, brushing the thought aside to focus on the present. Lyra hit a setback after a restless night, details slipping away, and Alara confided in Owen. "It breaks my heart every time," she said, her voice softening rarely. He nodded, offering steadiness. "We'll push through," he assured. Suspicious drones lingered outside, corporate eyes probing closer, quickening the pace subtly. The group shared a light meal, Newton's antics drawing laughs. "That cat's a comedian," Marco joked, the makeshift family strengthening amid rising tensions. Treatments flowed steadily each week in the Spire's clinic, where Lyra began holding on to fragments longer, object names echoing in her voice as her sensitivity grew in her smiles. Interactions with Owen warmed gradually, and Newton often chased her toy across the floor, prompting her laughter to ring out pure and clear. "Newton's so fast today," she exclaimed one afternoon, her joy blooming as Owen watched from the side, his pragmatic heart softening more with each passing day. Bonds deepen without needing many words, the quiet moments weaving them closer. In the evenings, Owen sat with her, sharing stories that spilled from his lips with ease. Tales of space adventures featuring clever twists where pirates dodged asteroid fields and heroes fixed broken ships mid-flight. "And then the captain rerouted the power just in time," he narrated, his voice steady and engaging. Lyra leaned in close, her eyes wide with wonder. "What happened next?" she asked, emotional anchors taking root as she repeated lines back, her memory clinging a bit tighter each time. Helix moved in sharply one day, seizing Vesper's gear overnight through a fabricated leak that served as their excuse. Ilara stood in the hollow room, projections flickering around her as tense voices argued back and forth. "This is outrageous! We have rights!" she declared, her fists clenched hidden from view, determination burning quietly as legal paths twisted narrowly before her. Her composure held strong, but the pressure weighed heavily on her shoulders. "Doctor?" Nyla paced her lab alone, where Helix's pull tugged hard at her conscience, coercion whispering in her ear as her brilliant mind split between loyalty and what felt right. "I can't do this anymore," she murmured to herself, ethics winning a narrow edge as she stared at the screen, her fingers hovering over the delete key. Conflict brewed deeply inside, the weight of her choices pressing down like an unseen force. Marco gathered the crew quickly, parts scavenged from Halifax docks piling high as improvised tools clanged together in rhythm. The backup synthesizer rose from scrap, with the coffee machine humming as its core in a retrofit that sparked to life. "Look at this beauty, we've got it running," Marco said with a witty grin. Loyalty fueling every weld as the team worked in sync. "It'll hold up, no doubt," Owen replied, clapping his friend on the back. Corvina sat with Alara over tea one afternoon, steam curling in the air as legacy tales wove through her words, recounting how the Voss family rose from nothing. "We've always protected our own," she said, pride holding her posture straight. But Lyra's joy softened her edges slightly. Observation shifted her stance faintly, though history loomed large in her mind. "Perhaps there's room for new ways," she conceded quietly, her voice softening for the first time. Owen traced his arm one night in his suite, old scars raised under his fingers as accident memories flickered faintly in his mind. "That hull breach, what did she really do?" he wondered aloud, shaking the thought off to focus on the now, the bedside lamp glowing dim and casting long shadows. He pushed the curiosity aside, turning his attention back to the present challenges. Lyra tossed restlessly that night, and morning brought a gap, the setback hitting her hard as details slipped away once more. Alara sat by her bed, her hand stroking silver hair gently. "We'll get through this, my love," she said, emotional depths surfacing softly. Later, she turned to Owen in confidence. "It hurts every time she loses a piece," Alara confided, her voice cracking just once. He nodded silently, offering a steady anchor. "She's strong, like her mom. We'll keep fighting," he assured, his big-hearted tone providing comfort. Drones hummed outside the spire suspiciously, their shadows lingering in the sky as corporate eyes probed closer, quickening the pace subtly. Ilara scanned the feeds, her fingers tapping alerts quickly. "They're getting bolder," she said to Owen, tension threading the air as they watched together. The group gathered for a light meal soon after, plates clinking around the table, while Newton's paws batted a napkin, his antics drawing chuckles low. "That cat's got timing," Marco joked, humor weaving through the worry as the makeshift family tightened bonds amid the creeping dark. Rising demands hit next from Helix, pushing to sell Vesper hard with veiled threats that cut supply lines across 12 colonies. Disruptions rippled out, and Ilara fielded calls nonstop, her composure cracking in private moments. "We can't let them win," she said firmly to Dr. Nyla, who stepped forward boldly with her confession spilling in the clinic. "Helix forced my hand, but I choose this side now," Nyla said, redemption sparking in her eyes as frantic plans formed to rebuild the lab. Owen called Marco in, and the crew assembled in the garage, where the improvised facility grew from chaos, tech humming under their hands. "Let's make this work," Owen directed, treatment sustained without a break. Lyra's steps sped up, full talks recalled clearly, but glitches flickered oddly, hinting at deeper issues. "Something's off," she said one day, confusion creeping in briefly. Corvina watched the swirl from her study, chaos testing her views as inner fears rose quietly, control slipping like sand. "I can't lose this," she thought, legacy feeling fragile now. Owen dug into his past deeply, records pulled from old drives, revealing his gene altered in that, saved by his biohacker ex-wife. "She changed everything," he said to himself, the twist landing heavily, his protein matching Lyra perfectly as the only one in known records. Ilara shared partial truths carefully. "Lyra's condition isn't just illness, it's a safeguard," she explained, framing it amid Helix agents closing in slowly. Probes turned to threats, and sabotage struck the systems lightly, alarms blaring in the night. Owen's wits averted disaster, circuits rerouted fast. "Got it under control," he said, sweat beading on his brow. Alliances locked in tightly, the pace surging ahead as revelations loomed on the edge. Lyra's innocence holding the center. Shadows crept closer, but bonds held stronger still. Helix's grip tightened like a vice on Vesper logistics, their demands to sell hitting harder with veiled threats that cut deep into supply lines across 12 orbital colonies. Freighters stalled in docks, disruptions rippling out as Alara paced the Spire's command room, her fingers flying over holoscreens. "They're trying to starve us out," she said, her composed face masking rising fear, determination burning in her eyes as she rerouted cargo manually, each move a quiet act of defiance. In the clinic, Dr. Nyla stood with resolve, her confession coming fast as words tumbled out to Alara. "Helix forced my hand from the start," she admitted, guilt cracking her steady voice, but redemption sparked in her choice to ally with them. "I'm with you now. Let's rebuild this lab," Nyla said, her brilliant mind locking in as frantic plans took shape. Alara nodded, relief mixing with urgency. "We need you more than ever," she replied, the two women clasping hands briefly in solidarity. Owen dialed Marco's comm, the signal crackling through static as he spoke with urgency. "Get the crew here now, we've got work to do," he said, his voice firm. Marco rallied the team fast, tools clanging in the garage as the makeshift lab took shape, wires tangling with purpose, and improvised tech humming alive. "This coffee machine core is genius," Marco grinned, loyalty fueling every bolt. Owen clapped his back. "Couldn't do it without you guys. Let's keep those treatments going," he said, the crew moving like a well-oiled unit. Lyra sat with Newton nearby in the suite, her memory surging forward as full conversation stuck now, allowing her to repeat Owen's stories word for word sometimes. "The captain fixed the ship, right?" she asked, her voice blooming with pride. But glitches flickered in her eyes, confusion creeping in briefly. "Something feels weird," she said, clutching her toy tighter, emotional fragility showing faintly. Owen knelt beside her. "We'll sort it out, kid. You're doing amazing," he assured, his big-hearted tone steadying her. Corvina watched from the study, the chaos swirling around her as controls slipped like sand through her fingers, inner fears rising quietly. "This isn't how it was supposed to be," she thought, legacy feeling brittle now, tradition clashing with the reality unfolding before her. Her hands gripped the chair tightly, but she saw Lyra's smile fade, and her heart tugged against pride, change looming in her shadow as she began to question her views. One night, Owen sat alone, old records glowing on his screen as hull breach scars ached faintly, his ex-wife's biohacker past surfacing in the data. "She rewired me to save my life," he murmured, shock hitting like a spark, betrayal stinging his thoughts as the unnatural gene clicked into place. "This changes everything," he said to himself, the twist landing heavily in his chest. But resolve hardened quickly, channeling the revelation into strength for Lyra. Alara pulled him aside later in the hall, her words coming carefully as she shared partial truths. "Lyra's condition isn't just an illness, it's a security measure I put in place," she explained, framing it amid the growing threats, her hands trembling slightly. "Helix is closing in," she added, fear for Lyra burning deep. Owen nodded slowly, his steadiness anchoring her. "We'll protect her, Alara, no matter what," he promised, his presence a rock in the storm. At dawn, sabotage struck, the Spire systems flickering wildly as alarms wailed through the halls. Owen sprinted to the core, his fingers rewiring circuits fast to avert disaster by mere seconds. "Got it! System stable," he panted, sweat beading on his brow, his quick wits holding firm. Helix agents probed too close now, the tension mounting like a coiled spring. Lyra's progress teetered on the edge, glitches growing more frequent as she forgot a name mid-sentence, her eyes dimming with worry. "Why does it keep happening?" she asked, her voice small. Owen knelt beside her again. "We're fixing it, Lyra. Hang in there," he said, Newton purring at her side for comfort in his soft fur. Marco's crew worked nonstop in the garage, the lab humming with life as protein flowed steadily again. "This rig's holding strong," Marco reported, redemption driving Nyla's precise adjustments. Ilara watched the screens, threats piling like debris. "They won't break us," she said, her shoulders squaring firmly, determination drowning out fear. Alliances locked in tighter, Owen station contacts sending word of extra hands offering cover. "We've got backup coming," he told the group, the pace surging like a pulse as revelations waited on the edge. Lyra's innocence holding the center. Shadows crept in closer, but bonds held stronger still. Night fell heavy, drones buzzing outside again with suspicious lights blinking in the dark. Ilara scanned the feeds relentlessly. "They're testing us," she said to Owen, who stood by her side, silent support speaking loud. Marco cracked a joke low. "Let's zap 'em with that coffee steam," he quipped, humor cutting the tension. Corvina joined them late, her posture softening faintly. "Do what you must, I'm with you," she said, words grudging but real, family weighing heavier now. Her eyes met Ilara's briefly, understanding passing unspoken as legacy took second place. Owen lay awake after, Newton sprawled across the bed, his mind churning with the truth of his altered DNA. Betrayal or not, it's for her now, he thought, purpose burning brighter as Lyra's face anchored his will. Morning brought new focus, the lab buzzing with action as the crew moved like a unit. Every tool a weapon, and every wire a lifeline. Helix's shadow loomed large, but bonds held unbreakable, ready for what came next. Investigations delved deeper in the makeshift lab, where screens glowed brightly as data scrolled quickly under their fingers. Ilara leaned over the console, her eyes narrowing sharply as Lyra's scans revealed hidden layers. "It's not an illness at all. It's a deliberate lock I activated years ago," she explained, her voice steady but laced with regret. The quantum keys embedded by Helix in a past corporate betrayal now coming to light. Her hands shook faintly, urgent protectiveness surging as regret twisted in her gut. The twist landed like a heavy blow, the failing lock threatening Lyra's life as circuits frayed in her mind, requiring a full unlock to save her and exposing the conspiracy in the process. "We have no choice now," Ilara said, her emotional depth evident in her tone, protectiveness burning like fire as she met Owen's gaze. He stood nearby silently, his jaw clenching tightly. "We'll get through this, whatever it takes," he replied, unyielding determination building inside him. Marco wiped sweat from his brow in the garage, the lab rebuild humming around him as the crew moved with purpose, tools clanging in rhythm. "The stakes are high, but we've got this," he said, weight pressing heavily, loyalty turning the space into a fortress of wits. His hands steadied a wire, ingenuity flowing through his veins. "Hold the line, team," he encouraged, the crew nodding in sync, bonds forged in the chaos. Owen paced his room alone that night, the implications of his altered DNA hitting hard as inner turmoil swirled like a storm. "She betrayed me with that biohack, but it's saving Lyra now," he thought. Betrayal from his ex-wife stinging deeply, yet resolve channeled through for the girl's sake. He clenched his fists tightly, empathy drowning out the hurt. "This is bigger than me," he murmured, purpose sharpening his edge. Helix struck digitally next, launching an assault on Vesper's networks that raged fiercely, firewalls buckling under the code as alarms blared through the spire. Ilara rallied defenses fast, her fingers dancing on keys. "We can't let them breach," she said urgently, Dr. Nyla joining her side with expertise flowing precisely. "Block the ports here, I've got it," Nyla replied, her tone steady and calm. Redemptive drive fueling her moves as the assault was repelled by inches. Lyra sat in her bed, vivid flashes hitting suddenly as locked memories cracked open, faces swirling in her mind. "Make it stop, it's scary," she whispered, fearful confusion gripping her tightly. Emotional purity splintering faintly as she clutched her toy hard. Vulnerability showed in her tears, urgency heightening in the room. Owen knelt beside her, his hand on her shoulder gentle. "We're here, Lyra. Breathe through it," he said, hope mingling with dread in his voice. The group huddled in the lab, devising a high-risk plan that blended Owen's samples with decoded neural links, machines humming in sync. 50-50 odds at best, Dr. Nyla warned, adjusting dials carefully, her focus sharp. Ilara nodded slowly, regret and resolve mixing. "We have to try," she said, Marco testing the rig. "It's solid. Scrap never fails," he added with wit, lightening the weight briefly. Corvina entered the room quietly, her posture bending slightly as reluctant approval shone in her eyes, her arc shifting toward family now. "Do it for her. Family comes first," she said poignantly, legacy fading in the light as transformation glowed in her stance. She touched Ilara's arm briefly, understanding passing deeply between them. External allies pinged in from Owen's station contacts, sending gear that stacked in corners, offering cover as the story surged toward its peak, tension coiling like a spring. "We've got reinforcements. Hold steady," Owen announced, the group sharing determined nods. Preparations wrapped in a tense night, lights dimming in the garage as Newton's paws pattered lightly, chasing a shadow playfully. "That cat's our good luck charm," Marco chuckled low, comic relief breaking the strain briefly. Owen scratched Newton's ear, the moment grounding them all. "We need all the luck we can get," he said, a rare smile crossing his face. Ilara watched Lyra sleep, silver hair fanned on the pillow, protectiveness swelling in her chest. "Soon, my love, it'll be over," she whispered, regret for the lock lingering, but determination pushing forward. Dr. Nyla reviewed scans again, redemptive precision in her gaze. "The interface is ready," she confirmed. Corvina sat nearby silently, valuing bonds over bloodlines now. "I've been wrong about so much," she admitted softly, her voice carrying a poignant weight. Owen stepped outside briefly, sky traffic zipping below as his mind cleared in the void. "Betrayal fueled me, but Lyra anchors me," he thought, resolve burning unyielding. Back inside the lab, machines prepped for dawn, the group sharing quiet nods as the peak loomed on the horizon. Marco tested one last wire, the crew feeling the pull of stakes weighing like anchors, ingenuity holding them up. Newton's tail flicked lazily, respite fading into focus as night stretched long and heavy, urgency pulsing in their veins. Lyra stirred in her sleep, flashes hitting again faintly, confusion cracking her rest. Ilara smoothed her brow. "Hold on, just a little longer," she said, emotional depth pouring out. The lock's end neared, conspiracy's veil thinning as all eyes turned to the dawn. The climax built intensely in the improvised lab, where machines hummed low and tense as Owen hooked himself to the synthesizer, tubes snaking from his arm for the live protein transfer. His heart rate blinked steadily on the screen, monitored closely by Dr. Nyla, who adjusted dials with precise movements. "This is it. Stay steady," she said, her conflicted past fueling her focus now, precision cutting through the air as the procedure began. Lyra lay in the med pod, the lid sealing with a soft hiss, the 50-50 chance weighing heavily on everyone as the unlock sequence initiated, lights flickering in intricate patterns. Ilara held vigil nearby, her deep emotions surfacing raw in her silent support, hands clasped white-knuckled tightly. "You can do this, my girl," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly, the procedure teetering on a knife's edge. Chaos erupted midway through the flow, Owen's chest seizing suddenly as his heart flatlined on the monitor, alarm shrieking through the room. The strain hit him like a wave, and Marco lunged forward quickly, grabbing the jury-rigged shock from the coffee rig. "Not on my watch, buddy. Hold on," he shouted, clamping the pads to Owen's chest and delivering the zap that cut sharply through the air. Owen's body arched, then stilled, reviving with a gasp as determination flooded back fast. "I'm okay, keep going," he rasped, his voice weak but resolute. Inside Lyra's mind, Fragmented thoughts swirled chaotically, fear gripping her core tightly while hope flickered in glimpses, her perspective emerging faintly as continuous threads wove slowly. It's dark, but I see light, she thought, her eyes fluttering under the lids, the mind awakening to full recall amid the flood of data. Dr. Nyla guided the decryption steadily, screens scrolling with keys as her hands flew over the controls. "We're almost there. Stay with me," she said, her past conflicts driving her edge against the Helix raid looming on sensors, boots echoing in distant halls. Precision held firm against the storm, redemption shining in her focused gaze. Ilara's gaze locked on Lyra, anguish twisting her features as supportive hope burned through the tension. "Hold on, just a little longer," she urged softly, the procedure balancing precariously. Corvina stood nearby, her transformation evident in her steady presence. "Fight for her. We all are," she said, her voice carrying newfound warmth. Success struck like lightning, Lyra's eyes snapping open as memories flooded in clearly, everything sticking this time, while quantum keys decoded fast into the drives. I remember it all," she said, her voice croaking softly, gratitude glowing in her gaze as she sat up slowly. Elara rushed forward, tears streaming. "My girl, you're back," she whispered, joy breaking through. Helix agents breached the doors moments later, boots pounding on metal floors as the garage crew sprang their traps quickly, wires sparking in hidden spots. Owen rose unsteadily, wits sharpened by adrenaline, grabbing a tool wrench. "Not today, you're done," he growled, swinging at the nearest shadow in the pulse-pounding skirmish. Marco flanked from the side. "Take that, you suits!" he yelled, traps snapping shut tightly as agents reeled in confusion, Owen's quick moves turning the tide. Corvina faced a hollow screen in the corner, the executive's face flickering smugly until her voice cut like steel. "Your crimes end here. Consider this your downfall," she declared, her transformation complete in defending the family. Legacy bowing to love as the hollow crackled and died. The peak resolved with the data's release. Public waves carrying the keys as Helix crimes dismantled widely across interplanetary jurisdictions. Bonds forged unbreakable now, the lab falling silent after as machines powered down slowly. Owen slumped against the wall, exhaustion mixing with triumph. "We did it," he said, a tired smile crossing his face. Lyra sat up carefully, her mind clear and whole. "Thank you, all of you," she said, words pure and deep. Ilara rushed to her side, arms wrapping tightly around her. "You're safe now," she said, joyful relief pouring out in tears streaking her cheeks. Dr. Nyla stepped back quietly, vindication in her smile. "It worked, finally," she said, her voice soft with satisfaction. Marco clapped Owen's back. "Owe you that coffee, man," he joked, humor laced with pride. Corvina approached the group, her posture softened fully now. "Well done, mechanic. You've earned your place," she said, respect shining genuinely as the family circle widened slowly. Newton wandered in curiously, his tail high and flicking, his purr cutting the quiet tension. "Even the cat's celebrating," Marco chuckled, lightening the moment. Data rippled across nets, Helix crumbling in hours as interplanetary courts stirred quickly. Vesper stood stronger now, Owen wiping his brow clean, his heart steady once more. "This family's tough," he said, bonds holding like welds. Lyra explored her thoughts, full recall blooming inside as gratitude swelled for the cure, her healed mind feeling vast. "Everything's here now, it's amazing," she said, a rare glimpse shared quietly, her smile lighting the room. The group shared nods in the afterglow, chaos fading into peace as the spire hummed softly outside, sky traffic zipping unchanged. But inside, everything had shifted, unbreakable ties sealing the night. The aftermath settled gently over the spire, lights dimming to a soft glow as Lyra blinked at the ceiling, full memories rushing like waves through her mind. She sat up slowly, laughter bubbling from her lips, as fulfilled warmth spread through Owen, who leaned against the wall nearby. Ilara knelt beside the pod, arms wrapping her daughter tightly. "You're whole now, my love," she said, liberated joy shining in her eyes, tears of relief streaming down her cheeks. Lyra explored the flood inside her, faces and moments clicking clearly as she shared laughs with them all, a true family forming in the quiet. "I remember chasing Newton yesterday, and the day before," she exclaimed, her hand reaching for the cat, fur soft under her fingers, pure happiness lighting her face. Owen's affection deepened subtly, and he ruffled her silver hair. "Good to have you back, kid. Really back," he said, his voice warm with contentment. Ilara rose with purpose, the data keys glowing on the screen as she hit the release command. Expose files surging across nets. "This ends Helix for good," she declared, leading to their downfall across interplanetary jurisdictions, courts stirring in distant hubs. Her partnership with Owen bloomed further, deep connection and shared glances overlooking the sky traffic. "We built this together," she said softly, their hands brushing faintly as connection deepened in silence. In quiet moments outside, sky traffic zipped below unchanged, Owen standing by the rail with Ilara joining him close. "More than just a mechanic now, aren't I?" He joked lightly, his smile reflecting contentment. She leaned in, her tone holding a partnership warm. "You've always been more. Family suits you," she replied, the bond solidifying in the peaceful view. Corvina hosted a warm gathering in the main hall, tables set with care, as change embraced her fully. Love over legacy now guiding her actions. "You've all taught me what truly matters," she said, pouring tea with steady hands, her words heartfelt and filled with peace. The group sat around closely, stories flowing easily as bonds strengthened. Marco and the crew joined the feast, tales of heroics spilling out with enthusiasm. "That coffee shock, pure legend now," Marco grinned, adding humor lightly, loyal pride in every word. Owen clapped his back. "Couldn't have pulled it off without the team," he said, camaraderie glowing in the air as laughter echoed. Lyra's thoughts cleared inside her, gratitude swelling for the renewal as her healed mind felt free and vast. "Everything sticks now. It's like a whole new world," she said, a rare glimpse shared in her smile, innocent delight radiating. Newton caused one last mishap, getting stuck in a synth tree branch, paws dangling helplessly. "Help! He's up there again!" Lyra called, prompting the group to rush to the rescue, shared joy sealing the bond as laughter filled the halls. Vesper Logistics rebuilt stronger under Ilara's lead. Owen's influence bridging tech and heart in the designs, supplies flowing smoothly again across colonies without breaks. "Your touch makes all the difference," Ilara told him one day, his clever hands integrating seamlessly into the operations. The world shifted forward slowly, emphasizing that family is chosen each day through compassion's quiet pull, everyone gathering at dusk as reflections danced in their eyes. "Kindness was the real cure all along," Owen said thoughtfully, the journey's end feeling right and complete. Owen watched the stars outside later, Newton curled in his lap, purring contentedly, a sense of fulfillment settling deeply. "Life's mended, like those old circuits," he murmured, bonds holding unbreakable now. Lyra skipped nearby playfully, memories fresh and bright. "Let's make more stories," she suggested, her voice full of energy. Ilara's hand found Owen's, partnership solid as steel in the quiet. "We will together," she promised, the connection deepening. Corvina raised a glass quietly in the hall. "To new beginnings and the family we've become," she toasted, her humility shining true as Marco joked about upgrades. "Next time, let's add better coffee," he quipped, humor lacing the moment as the crew chuckled in sync. Lyra drew a new picture at the table, all of them together with details sharp and whole. "This one stays forever," she said proudly, holding it up for everyone to see. The group admired the lines, joy shared in glances as warmth filled the room. The spire hummed with life, Vesper's halls bustling again, as Owen fixed a panel absently, his hands moving with ease. Tech and heart, best combo, he said to Marco, influence weaving through the rebuild. Night deepened outside, sky traffic fading to streaks as reflections lingered in the quiet. The journey's end wrapped in heartfelt peace, kindness echoing as the ultimate cure.